Once upon a time, there was a young man named Siddharth who lived in a small village in the foothills of the Himalayas. Siddharth was known for his quick temper and hot-headedness, and he often got into arguments and fights with his fellow villagers. One day, Siddharth heard about a wise old monk who lived in a nearby monastery and was renowned for his teachings on anger and inner peace. Intrigued, Siddharth decided to pay the monk a visit and learn from him. When he arrived at the monastery, the monk greeted him warmly and invited him to sit down. Siddharth asked the monk how he could overcome his anger and become more peaceful and calm. The monk smiled and began to tell him a story. "Once upon a time," he said, "there was a young man who was very angry. He would often lose his temper and lash out at others. One day, he went to see a wise old sage who lived in a nearby village. The sage listened to the young man's troubles and then gave him a task. He told the young man to take a bag of feathers and go to every house in the village and place a feather on the doorstep of each house. The young man thought this task was easy, so he set out to do it. He went from house to house, placing feathers on doorsteps, and soon he had placed a feather at every house in the village. When he returned to the sage asked him, 'Did anyone say anything to you when you were placing the feathers on their doorstep?' The young man replied, 'No, nobody said anything to me.' The sage then told him, 'Now go back and pick up every feather you placed.' The young man was shocked. He protested, 'But that's impossible! The wind must have blown them away!' The sage smiled and said, 'Just like these feathers, your angry words and actions cannot be taken back. Once they are out forever. So be mindful of your words and actions and strive to bring peace and happiness to those around you.' Siddharth listened to the story carefully and felt a sense of enlightenment. He realized that his anger was like the feathers, and once he let it out, he could never take it back. From that day on, he made a conscious effort to control his temper and spread peace and happiness to those around him. As he left the monastery, he felt a sense of calm and serenity that he had never experienced before. He knew that he had learned a valuable lesson and that he would never let anger control him again. And so, the story of Siddharth and the wise old monk became a legend in the village, inspiring others to overcome their own anger and find inner peace.